You know what I'm saying? We're here every Thursday, you know. We're talking about finance, we're talking about a lot of different business things. It's a pleasure to have you guys in the building today. Give yourselves another big round of applause.
All right. We're going to get started. So for those out there, we're in Israel, United in Christ. We are here on behalf of the Lion's Den radio show. Tonight, what we're going to do, we're going to go through our history. I believe last month y'all came, right?
Yes, sir.
Last month we came and we presented a very small portion of our history. Tonight we're going to dive a little deeper. We're going to show you ancient artifacts. We're going to show you pictures that's never been seen. We're going to show you what's in the catacombs. And we're going to show you how our identity has changed all the way up until today. Right. Because Black history is not just in February. Y'all understand that?
Yes, sir.
All right, we gonna see. Because last month, everybody was excited about Black history. And then the next month, they go right back to sleep. So we're gonna show you here at Israel United in Christ, we stress our history and we stress our culture every single day. Because according to the Bible, we're not Black, we're not Hispanic, we're not Native American. According to the scriptures, we are indeed the biblical Israelites. And we're going to show you that with history as well as Bible scriptures. I'm Captain OC. This is Captain Tazawan and Officer Kim Yeo. We'll be presenting tonight. I want to read one thing before we get started. We're going to show you a little bit of our history in the Dark Ages, and then we're going to have Officer Kim Yeo. He's going to show you the history in the Dark Ages. In the Middle Ages. A lot of people. How many of y'all ever heard of the name Moors? Y'all ever heard of the Moors before? Okay. So Moor just means black. So he's actually going to show you how we became the Moors and who we truly are. So let's go through. I want to read 1 second. Tell them one.
All right, give yourself a round of applause. Thank you for being here, man. All praise to the Most High. So one of the key things that we are here to make clear to our people is our ancestry. Who we are today and where we come from and what we must do moving forward, all right? So with that, let me just get one scripture. Here we go. Let's get Deuteronomy chapter 32, verse 7. We got to understand that the Bible that we have before us was written purely by our ancestors. And we must make that connection back with biblical facts, with historical facts, and realizing the conditions that we are in today. So here we go. Let's read this verse. Come on.
Book of Deuteronomy, chapter 32 and verse 7. Remember the days of old.
The Bible says, remember the days of old. Read on.
Consider the years of many generations.
So the writer that's speaking these words right now was Moses, a black man, all right? Moses, you already know. Listen, Moses, he was presented to represent the children of Israel before Pharaoh, all right? We know that he's black because when you read in the scriptures, he put his hand into his bosom. And when he brought it out, it was leprous as snow. Well, what was it originally? Before it was turned from leprous, all right? He had dark skin. So this is a black man reading right here. What is he talking right now? What is he saying? Read that, come on.
Ask thy father, and he will show thee.
She says, ask thy father, and he will show us what? Ask your elders. Ask of your ancestry. Ask of what? The past. Read on, come on.
Thy elders, and they will tell thee.
Job 8 and 8, another black man. I'm gonna be done with this real quick so that brother Captain OC can bring it in. Job 8 and 8, real quick.
Book of Job, chapter 8, verse 8.
And this is our mission, our purpose today is to enlighten you all of your history. All right, read.
For inquire, I pray thee, of the former age.
Inquire, I pray thee, I charge you. We challenge our people to look up the pureness of our ancestry. It's very vital and important. All right, read, come on.
And prepare thyself to the search of their fathers.
And we must prepare ourselves to the search. What does that search mean? The research of our fathers. The pure and enriched heritage that we have, our ancestors.
All right, so before we get started, I want to read. I got an excerpt out of a book. Read the name of the book, the title.
Name of the book, The Negro Rulers of Scotland and the British Isles.
All right. So a lot of times when you think of kings and rulers in Europe, we think of European individuals. And when you think of the name European, you think of Caucasians. I want to show you what this book starts out with. Read that, bro. This is page 10.
All right, this is page 10. The newly aged Euro scholars, governments, big business, and white supremacists have deliberately rewritten the history of Europe. The Europeans have barbarously burned, looted, and disfigured thousands of old African European royal paintings, sculptures, and public works in order to erase any evidence of an early Negro African dominance.
Read.
There wasn't one nation in Europe that was free of a Negro, blue blood, superior rule, a supremacy that ended following the French Revolution. Every painted portrait of European royal families was of Negro ancestry. They were black-skinned African Moors who paraded their dark complexion as a badge of honor, pride, privilege, and royalty. It was not unusual for lighter black and whites to walk around in blackface, the A1 Jolson style, in order to look more upper class.
Is that the last piece of the, all I wanted was the P.
Last two.
Yep.
Many of today's images of the black rulers of Europe are falsely propagandized as white people.
So that's the key point. Scholars understand that a lot of the images that you see today, it has been whitewashed. There's a term called iconoclasm. We're going to show you that today. When you look up what iconoclasm is, it's how they whitewash the black images of our forefathers and of our foremothers, showing you, giving you evidence, plain as day, that you are actually the people of the book. Now, what we're going to start out with, we're going to go through the Dark Ages. What we want to illustrate first is we want to show you that you are in the Bible. When you read the scriptures, you're not reading about another group of people. You're reading about your great-great-grandfather, your great-great-grandmother. These individuals are black people. Moses was black. Jesus was black. Abraham was black. Jacob was black. And we're going to show you. Go ahead. Let's scroll through a few of these images. So, this is in the Garden of Eden. This is in the Garden of Eden, and this is in Moscow, Russia. Notice the color of Adam. Go to the next one. All right. This is Joseph. How many of y'all ever heard the story of Joseph? Joseph, okay, we got a few. These are the Hebrew slaves. These are the Hebrew slaves. Notice the background. The background is lighter than the complexion of the slaves. They have afros on their head. The Hebrews were black. They are black. But they knew it back then. Go ahead, go to the next one. Alright. This is King David and King Solomon. Notice the color of his beard is white. If King David and Solomon, his whole body would have been that color. But his beard stands out as white texture, the same way Christ was. Let's read that for me. Give me Songs of Solomon, chapter 1 and verse 5. We're going to show you what King Solomon said about himself. Songs of Solomon, chapter 1 and verse 5. Alright? I'm going to show you out of the scriptures that this depiction is biblical. This is biblical. And this is in Spain. This is in the walls of Spain. A black image of King Solomon and King David. You got it?
Look at Song of Solomon, chapter 1 and verse 5. I am black.
Hold on. Read that again.
I am black.
So the Bible does speak about color. And the color that dominates the Bible is black. Read it again.
I am black.
I am black. Read.
But comely.
But comely. Solomon is telling you he's black and beautiful. Next one. Alright, this is King David. Another image. This is in Italy. This is in Italy. Alright, next one. Alright, David and Goliath. Dark images. Notice the background. The background is white. These individuals are dark. Next one. Alright, here we go. The most famous one of them all. How many of y'all ever heard of Jesus Christ? Jesus, okay, he pretty popular. You know, he sets time. You know, you got before Christ, and then you got after his death, BC and AD. Now, this is in Moscow, Russia. This is in the cathedral in the Kremlin. Notice the color of Jesus Christ. He is a black man with dark skin. Now, that's what's on the walls. Now, I'm going to show you what's in your Bible. Give me Revelation chapter 1 and verse 14.
Book of Revelation, chapter 1 and verse 14. His head and his hairs were white like wool.
So he has woolly hair. Jesus Christ is described in the Bible as having woolly, textured hair. Read.
As white as snow. And his eyes were as a flame of fire.
So his eyes were as a flame of fire. He had red eyes. Why? Because he drunk wine. Read.
And his feet. Like unto fine brass.
Like unto fine brass. Read.
As if they burned in a furnace.
As if what?
As if they burned in a furnace.
So brass. If you've ever been in a band, all right, I know we're in Florida, so I know y'all probably been to the Florida Classic. You've seen the trumpet players. They got those brass trumpets. If you burn that, it is going to be very, very dark. It's going to be black. Notice the color of his feet and his face in this image. That's in Moscow, Russia. Before white supremacy came in place in 1452 with Christopher Columbus and all that, he was black. Next one. There's another image. This is another image in Russia. There's a book called The Russian Icons. You can look it up. The Russian Icons. All the history of Jesus and the angels with his skin and the angels being dark. This is a beautiful image of it. Notice the halos are lighter than the skin of their faces. Next one. Alright, this is one of the apostles. This is one of the apostles. Give me Acts chapter 11 and verse 26. Alright, this is Luke. Look at the beard. Look at his face. Very, very dark-skinned man. This is in Greece, in a monastery in Greece. He's black.
Book of Acts, chapter 11, and verse 26. And when he had found him, he brought him unto Antioch. And it came to pass that a whole year they assembled themselves with the church and taught much people. And the disciples were called Christians first in Antioch.
They were called Christians. The disciples were called Christians first in Antioch. In Antioch. Antioch was where very, very dark-skinned individuals lived in Africa. Alright, go to the next image. Okay, Scott, I know you want to bring this up.
All right, very well, very well. Okay, so what we have here this is from a book right here that's called, what we have, can you read that? This is actually, I'm sorry, this is in a location at a Metropolitan Museum in New York. Now, I spoke with, what was his name, Brother Brian. I spoke, and he showed us some things in this, in the Bronze Kingdom, and what he mentioned was everything here has not been stolen. All right. So, with that said, we already know that a lot of these monuments and pictures that we have in museums all across the world, they've been stolen from their natural lands of Africa, etc. You understand what I'm saying? So what we do right here, we're trying to show you throughout the world that they full well understand and know that we are the people of antiquity, all right? Okay, so let's go to the next slide real quick. As you can see on this one right here, you have blown faces, noses blown off the monuments and faces. Now, there's also, give me that real quick. Let's get what I mentioned earlier, Leviticus. Let's get Leviticus chapter 26, verse, I think it's verse 17. Remember that what happened in Egypt concerning the Sphinx. Does anybody know what that is in Egypt? By show of hands? The Sphinx, right? Okay, so y'all remember the nose was blown off, all right? The nose was blown off. Why was that? Because a lot of these monuments throughout the whole planet were depicted as dark-skinned men with black features, all right? With black features. So here in the Bronze Kingdom, we're trying to show you that our ancestry have been scattered throughout the whole world. It's for us to go and do the research and find these facts, that we are the people of this earth. Read that real quick about our ancestors.
It's the book of Leviticus, chapter 26 and verse 17. And I will set my face against you, and ye shall be slain before your enemies.
Right, read.
They that hate you shall reign over you.
So one of the things we like to ask our people is, why did slavery happen unto us? How do we lose our kingship? How do we lose our priestlyhood? How do we lose our power? How do we lose our dominion over the planet that we once had? It came through our decay of immorality. Thus, God's commandments. We lost the power of morale in our communities, keeping up God's commandments. So we lost our majesty. And many of things and atrocities happened to us throughout the whole world. As you all can see throughout the whole museum and the building, slavery happened unto us as a people. Can we all attest and agree with that? Okay, that happened to us. So now with that said, why did it happen? Read this verse again, come on.
And I will set my face against you, and ye shall be slain before your enemies.
Right, read.
They that hate you shall reign over you.
Them that hate us reign over us. And they gave us his story of our history, of our past. All right. So as you can see, we're just bringing these situations and these conditions to light for our people today. Read, come on. keep going. Next slide, real quick. Next slide. As you can see, here's another one right here. If you can read that real quick. This actually, I'm sorry. This is the image of the black in Western art from the early Christian era to the age of discovery. Africans and the Christian Ordinance of the World, Part 2. That's the book where you can find this information from. All right. So as you see, we have black images up there. All right. Black statues. Keep going. Here's another one. We should all be familiar with this. This is actually depictions of black. You can see you can actually see right here. This is a brother with waves right here with chains on his neck. All right. But you can see how the features of black men throughout the whole world right here, putting chains on their necks. Let's get that in the scriptures real quick. I'm gonna be brief real quick. So when you read the Bible, it's simply a collection of books archiving what happened to us and for generations. This is actually, this is in a location at a Metropolitan Museum in New York. Now, I spoke with, what was his name, brother Brian. I spoke, and he showed us some things in this, in the Bronze Kingdom, and what he mentioned was everything here has not been stolen. All right. So with that said, we already know that a lot of these monuments and pictures that we have in museums all across the world, they've been stolen from their natural lands of Africa, etc. You understand what I'm saying? So what we do right here, we're trying to show you throughout the world that they full well understand and know that we are the people of antiquity. All right. Okay, so let's go to the next slide real quick. As you can see on this one right here, you have blown faces, noses blown off the monuments and faces. Now, there's also, give me that real quick. Let's get what I mentioned earlier, Leviticus. Let's get Leviticus chapter 26, verse, I think it's verse 17. Remember that what happened in Egypt concerning the Sphinx. Does anybody know what that is in Egypt? By show of hands? The Sphinx, right? Okay, so y'all remember the nose was blown off, all right? The nose was blown off. Why was that? Because a lot of these monuments throughout the whole planet were depicted as dark-skinned men with black features, all right? With black features. So here in the Bronze Kingdom, we're trying to show you that our ancestry have been scattered throughout the whole world. It's for us to go and do the research and find these facts, that we are the people of this earth. Read that real quick about our ancestors.
It's the book of Leviticus, chapter 26 and verse 17. And I will set my face against you, and ye shall be slain before your enemies.
Right, read.
They that hate you shall reign over you.
So one of the things we like to ask our people is, why did slavery happen unto us? How do we lose our kingship? How do we lose our priestlyhood? How do we lose our power? How do we lose our dominion over the planet that we once had? It came through our decay of immorality. Thus, God's commandments. We lost the power of morale in our communities, keeping up God's commandments. So we lost our majesty. And many of things and atrocities happened to us throughout the whole world. As you all can see throughout the whole museum in the building, slavery happened unto us as a people. Can we all attest and agree with that? Okay, that happened to us. So now with that said, why did it happen? Read this verse again, come on.
And I will set my face against you, and ye shall be slain before your enemies.
Right, read.
They that hate you shall reign over you.
Them that hate us reign over us. And they gave us his story of our history, of our past. All right. So as you can see, we're just bringing these situations and these conditions to light for our people today. Read, come on. keep going. Next slide, real quick. Next slide. As you can see, here's another one right here. If you can read that real quick. This actually, I'm sorry. This is the image of the black in Western art from the early Christian era to the age of discovery. Africans and the Christian Ordinance of the World, Part 2. That's the book where you can find this information from. All right. So as you see, we have black images up there. All right. Black statues. Keep going. Here's another one. We should all be familiar with this. This is actually depictions of black. You can see you can actually see right here. This is a brother with waves right here with chains on his neck. All right. But you can see how the features of black men throughout the whole world right here, putting chains on their necks. Let's get that in the scriptures real quick. I'm gonna be brief real quick. So when you read the Bible, it's simply a collection of books archiving what happened to us.
In one of all things.
And in the one of all things. So now let's bring this up to speed today. If we want an ID today, if we want a car, anything like that, if we needed anything to survive back then in our era, in the time of now, we got it from those that the Bible deems our enemies, all right? That put the chains on our necks, as we can see right here. So what would that same enemy do to a great people? Read, come on.
And he shall put a yoke of iron.
The he, ladies and gentlemen, is the enemy. There was a man on the planet that did what? Read.
Put a yoke of iron upon thy neck.
He put a yoke of iron upon our necks, as y'all can see plainly right here. We have many of various, and we're going to go to the next slide, not now, how it depicts how a certain group of people on the planet put a certain blacks and put chains on their necks, all right? Shackles on their feet, all right? And the result of what they've done is what we can see here on the walls today, where we're trying to restore the lost history that was taken from us. Everything that's on the walls right now is a pure testament of what happened to us in our history, all right? So from that, let's go on to the next thing. Next slide, please. Yeah, let's read this real quick. Concerning Egypt, because we see a lot of, Egypt is located in Northeast Africa, all right? So with that, let's read this whole excerpt right here. What the pictures that we just saw, read that.
The Israelites, when Jacob's family settled in Egypt, they fared well under Joseph's reign. Joseph's power was immense in Egypt. So the Israelites prospered in that land under his protection and made it in their home. After the death of Joseph and the ascendance of a new Pharaoh who did not know Israelites in Egypt and enslaves and afflicted them with bitter bondage.
So what I'm going over right now is those monuments that you find in Northeast Africa. Yes, the Great Pyramid, the Kings, what is it called? The Valley of the Kings, the Israelite man, woman, and child, were forced to build those monuments that we see today. And we did it under servitude under the Egyptian people. Keep reading where you at. That's what we're going over. How Joseph, one of our forefathers, he became governor of the land. And through time, we became slaves as a multitude when we migrated into Egypt. Other black people. Read on, come on.
He commands them to build treasured cities called Python and Ramses.
So Ramses the king at this time, what was it, the 18th dynasty in Egypt? We were forced as slaves to build the treasure cities that we see today.
All right, so this was the Dark Ages. This was the Dark Ages. All right, so now, before the Dark Ages, you had the Middle Ages. After the Dark Ages, what came after the Dark Ages? Who knows? Huh? Oh, I'm dealing with some wise individuals. The Renaissance. Now you got to ask yourself, Renaissance. Anybody know what that means? Rebirth. The Renaissance means the rebirth. Who was rebirthing? What were they rebirthing from? That's what we're going to show you real quick. I'm going to show you a scripture, and then I'm going to let Austin Kibuel show you why they had to rebirth themselves. All right, because right here, the images of royalty, the images of our forefathers, David, Solomon, Joseph. What color were they? Black. Okay. This was prior 1500s. From the 1500s on, what color were these individuals? What color did they become? They became white. Interesting. Give me 1 Maccabees chapter 3 and verse 43. Now I'm going to show you how the Bible illustrates what happened to ourselves, the history of what happened to us, our culture, the archaeological facts, how they would change. Read about that.
Let's go to 1 Maccabees chapter 3 and verse 43.
Now, if you open up your Bible, 9 times out of 10, you won't have this book. This book is called the Apocrypha. It means the hidden books. But when you go into the King James 1611 Bible, you find the Apocrypha within those scriptures. All right, so this is canonized scripture. 1 Maccabees 3 and 48.
1 Maccabees chapter 3 and verse 48. And laid open the book of the law.
They did what?
Laid open the book of the law.
Our oppressors, the Grecians, Alexander the Greek, during this time period, they laid open the book of the law. Our Bible, read.
Wherein the heathen have sought to paint their likeness, their images.
They sought to do what?
Paint the likeness of their images.
They sought to paint the likeness of their images. That's where you get iconoclasm. That's where you get Caesar Borgia, who was the individual that was put up to portray Jesus Christ from the 1400s on. That is where that originated.
We here at the museum, right? The Bronze Museum. And I would invite y'all to walk around and look at some of the pictures. One of the things we saw back there is the cargo slave ship, you know, on the flyer. We see that on that wall back there. But I want to address something. If you give me a scripture right quick, give me Acts chapter 17, verse 18. Because what has happened to us in this day and age is we grasp everything black. Okay, we grasp everything black as if it's the same thing. All right? But just because you're black doesn't mean you're the same people. We didn't all go through the same things. Read that for me.
It's the book of Acts chapter 17 and verse 18. Then certain philosophers of the Epicureans and of the Stoics encountered him. And some said, what will this babbler say?
What will this what?
What will this babbler say?
Go ahead.
Others some, he seemeth to be a setter forth of strange gods, because he preaches unto them Jesus and the resurrection.
You see that? Because Paul preached Christ. They said, what is this strange doctrine? Who is this babbler? It's the same spirit that's in the earth today. Just because we see black, we tend to think that we're all the same people. We're not all the same people, all right? And that's what the captains was bringing out before. So now, we're going to go over our hidden history. Why is it hidden? Because everything you see black is not Israel. All right? The so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, we are the Israelites. Let's go. All right, so we often ask, what is your nationality and where can it be found? There's only one true book on the earth, and that's the Bible. And that's our history book. Go ahead. Go to the next one. All right, so we know from the Bible, the history of man is what? What's the history of man? That God formed man out of the dust of the ground, right? We understand that. Next slide. Well, a lot of times, this is what we get confused. When we look at the Tower of Babel, it says 102 years after the flood in the land of Shinar, which is modern-day Iraq, an extensive and fertile plain lying between Mesopotamia on the west and Persia on the east, and watered by the Euphrates, mankind being all of one language, one color, and one religion. All right? You had all the nations were the same color because they were formed in the dust of the ground. Y'all understand that? All right? And they tried to build a tower to reach God. Next slide. All right? So that's just an example. All right? But now I want to read to you Exodus 11:7. Because all black and brown people are not the same people. A lot of our people, we like to take hold of Egypt. Right? Pharaohs, King Tut, Nefertiti. That sounds royal, right? But let's see if God says those are our ancestors. Let's read it.
It's book of Exodus, chapter 11, verse 7. But against any of the children of Israel shall not a dog move his tongue against man or beast, that ye may know how that the Lord doeth put a difference between the Egyptians and Israel.
So I want y'all to see that. You see that word right there? Difference. That means the Egyptians and the Israelites are not the same people. You understand? The Egyptians had us enslaved. Let's go to the next slide. Exodus 1:11. So here it says, Ramesses II is also known for his national public work projects because these projects required the forced labor of thousands of Hebrew slaves. He is known as the Pharaoh of the oppression. Wait a minute. But we're trying to grasp the history of the pharaohs. But he was known as the Pharaoh of oppression. So who were the oppressed people? Let's read on. He was boastful and vainglorious, tyrannical personality who sought to astound humanity, covering the country with megalithic structures. This Ramesses transferred the capital to the Nile Delta. The black, what's that word saying? Jews constructed the treasured cities, Pithom and Ramesses. And you can read this in the Bible. All right? We can read that we were those that constructed these in the Valley of the Kings. Right? Next slide. All right. It says, from Adam to Isaac, all men were black and brown people. So what happened then? And from Adam to Isaac, we were all black and brown people. What happened then? Get that in Deuteronomy. I want to read it right. I'm sorry, Genesis. Read it right quick. 25. Now start at 21. Start at 21.
Book of Genesis, chapter 25, and verse 21. And Isaac entreated the Lord for his wife, because she was barren, and the Lord was entreated of him. And Rebekah his wife conceived, and the children struggled together within her.
So even when she was pregnant, the two children were fighting. They were warring in her belly. Go ahead.
And she said, if it be so, why am I thus? And she went to inquire of the Lord. And the Lord said unto her, 2 nations are in thy womb, and 2 manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels, and the one people shall be stronger than the other.
So now there's a difference in these two people. One will be stronger than the other. Go ahead.
And the elder shall serve the younger.
And the elder shall serve the younger. Go ahead.
And when her days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb. And
now these were not identical twins, these were fraternal twins. Go ahead.
And the first came out red, all over like a hairy garment. And they called his name Esau. And after that came his brother out. And his hand took hold on Esau's heel.
Now I want y'all to understand something. We just read out of the Bible. We just read a scripture out of the Bible. Now, is it important for us to know truth? That's a question. It's important for us to know truth, right? But sometimes truth gets a little bit uncomfortable. But who is the truth being uncomfortable for? The oppressed or the oppressor? We just reading out of the scriptures. This is when the so-called white race came into the earth. All right, let's go to the next slide. The wisest king ever, King Solomon, was black. Cap showed pictures of that. All right, so now we got a book. Now, Cap, I'm just touching on this a little bit, went into the Dark Ages and the rulers of the Dark Ages. Let me see that book right quick. I just want to show them. Okay, we got a book called Nature Knows No Color Lines. Now, make no mistake about it. The only true book on the earth is the Bible. So everything has to factor through the Bible. All right, that's the filter. So now what you see is coats of arms. All right. Not only did we rule, if you're in rulership, what do you have to have? Let's see some things. See if y'all thinking. What do you have to have if you're in rulership? You see that? We so oppressed, we don't even know what it feels like to rule. We can't even imagine what it feels like to rule. But yet, when you look around, we have images to try to remind us. You gotta have a military, because you gotta protect the people. You understand? So we got coats of arms, because we got militaries. We rule. In order for you to rule, you gotta go conquer people. Next slide. All right, so these are some of the coats of arms of our noble families. Okay, read it, go ahead. It says, Maurice and Kramersburg, Mark Fletcher, Austria, a jet black Negro as St. Peter holding the keys of the kingdom in the coat of arms. Because we have pictures depicting us. And where do we get it from? We got it from the Bible. Next slide. Okay. This is us ruling in Russia and Belgium. These are different coats of arms when we rule. Next slide. Pictures of Christ. All right, look at this here. Rulers in what? Europe and Russia. All right, go ahead, next slide. Again, the Black Madonna. I want to point something out. If you go back here, there's a picture of Moses leading all the people out of Egypt. Guess what color he's on the picture? Black. Black. So many of us already understand this. But we still haven't figured out how to touch and reach into our history. Go ahead, next slide. These are other images of the apostles. All right, where is this? Russia in the 19th century. Next slide. Again, the Black Madonna and Virgin, right? Where? In Russia. Next slide. Okay, this one is, the subject of the icon is Christ's defeat of the powers of darkness during the 3 days between the crucifixion and the resurrection. a symbol of the victory of life over death. Beneath his feet lie the broken gates of hell. Do y'all see actual gates laying down there? Or do y'all see people? You see people. The gates of hell shall not prevail against him, right? It says, beneath his feet lie the broken gates of hell with its shattered locks, keys, and chains. Below, shrouded figures rise from their tombs. To either side of Christ stand Adam and Eve, whom he holds by the hand. The biblical kings, Solomon and David, and the Old Testament prophets. So that's what Calvin was bringing out earlier. Look at the pictures. Look at the pictures. This is white. That's brown. This is when we rule. These are images we read about in the Bible. Next slide. Let's read that. Daniel 7 and 9. Read that right quick.
Daniel chapter 7 and verse 9. I beheld until the thrones were cast down, and the Ancient of Days did sit, whose garment was white as snow, and the hair of his head like the pure wool. His throne was like the fiery flame, and his wheels as burning fire.
All right, so that's God, the Ancient of Days, with hair like pure wool. Okay, same hair you have. All right, now let's skip ahead. Let's get to the Renaissance. Go back. Yes, sir. We gotta bring this out. I want to show y'all something. Renaissance. Go to the next slide. Calvin's bringing this out. Renaissance, right? I want to read this one. Number 4. A renewal of life, vigor, interest, rebirth, revival, a moral renaissance. Number 5. Pertaining to or suggestive of the European Renaissance of the 14th and 17th centuries. Now we'll see if y'all connect the dots. Go to the next slide. Black. It says pertaining or belonging to any various populations characterized by dark skin pigmentation, especially the dark-skinned peoples of Africa, Oceania, and Australia. B, African American. But now let's see the connected dots here. 9, without any moral quality or goodness, evil, wicked, his black heart has concocted yet another black deed. So when you go back and look at some older dictionaries, black didn't start having a negative connotation until the European Renaissance. Next slide. Yeah, go back there. All right, so now this is in the book. Let me get that book right quick. No. Babylon. Yep, Babylon. So we got another book right quick. Babylon and Timbuktu. I want to show y'all something. How great we are that even as we were expelled from Spain, right, and went into Africa, how great we still were. It says the black Jews had an advantage over the African tribes. Do y'all remember when we read that Egypt and Israel are not the same people, though they be dark? It said the black Jews had an advantage over the African tribes. They carried their culture, history, laws, and written records with them. This assured them a constant precedence for the development of a higher social organization. Because of the stability of the black Jewish culture, the Jews were not absorbed into the autonomous population. In fact, the Jews absorbed some of the native tribes. Scroll down. Oh no, that's it, that's right. Look at this, look at what we were. In the Jewish Ghanaian states were found kings, princes, governors, generals, secretaries, treasurers, revenue agents, judges, architects, engineers, doctors, historians, language interpreters, mathematicians, jewelry sculptors, masons, carpenters, painters of art, goldsmiths, leather workers, potters, armorers, sailors, blacksmiths, architects, agriculturalists, etc. So, even in our fallen state, we still great. And we see that even to this very day. Next slide. Keep going. Now, I'm going to end it here. We recognize pictures like this today, right? We recognize this. This could be any of our mothers, grandmothers, right? Get the next slide. Yes, this is what I want. I want y'all to see something. We went from being black Jews to what? The Slaves Gender Convention resulted from a combination of West African traditions, white influences, and their own experiences within the Afro-American slave community. Transplantation to the New World, what's that called? What's it called? Transatlantic slave trade, right? However violent and disorienting, never eradicated African conventions, but did divorce them from the material and institutional conditions which they had flourished. And it exposed the slaves to the power of masters' views and attitudes different from their own. Last scripture I'll end it here. Give me that in Jeremiah 17.
Book of Jeremiah, chapter 17, and verse 4. And thou in thyself shalt discontinue from thine heritage that I gave thee, and I will cause thee to serve thine enemies in the land which thou knowest not.
You see that? Hold on. Enemies. It exposed slaves to the power of masters. We didn't write these books. These books are written by Europeans, Caucasians, when they saw the condition that they put us in. And they thought that they could share these books and we would never read them. Read on. Go ahead and finish that verse.
For ye have kindled a fire in my
read it again, I'm sorry.
Book of Jeremiah, chapter 17, and verse 4. And thou even thyself shalt discontinue from thine heritage.
That's what I wanted right there. Because we went from black Jews to African or Afro-American. Okay? That's one of the curses that will be put upon us. All right? And with that, I'm going to say shalom, Officer Kimmy Will.
The scriptures say, where there is no vision, the people perish.
Shalom, Israel. This is Bishop Nathaniel. I want you to know that you can view all our Sabbath classes live on IUIC TV. That's right, I said on IUIC TV.
Do you know history?
I'm going to show you and prove to you that the Israelites are black, were always black.
That is no time, just move up your body. Don't get loose and groove on the body. Bruise, wine. Put on the armor, the procedure complete. Me nah go back, nah retreat. All traitors, every Jezebel must get delete. Me no sleep on a demon, me keep a full clip. Conspire me downfall, cause them want to me slip. Stay close to the real ones, we seal off and legit. Cause I gotta use them to keep your soul from the pit. This a war life, I swear the damn thing.
All right. So now, what we are here to do is, and as he mentioned, as Brother Officer Kimmy well mentioned, was our disconnect or our disconnect from our true godly heritage of who we are as a people in 2022. All right. So what we're going to do is reveal unto you. Give me real quick Malachi chapter 4, and I want you to read verse 4. I believe Malachi chapter 4, read verse 4. What we are going to do is show you without a shadow of a doubt that when you read the scriptures and you connect the scriptures to what we know as history today and ancient artifacts, we are truly, the so-called Black, Hispanics, and Native American Indians, we are the children of Israel. Can I get an amen on that? All right, so here we go.
Book of Malachi, chapter 4, and verse 4.
Read.
Remember ye the law of Moses, my servant, which I commanded unto him in Horeb for all Israel, with the statutes and judgments.
So when you're reading the whole Bible from Genesis to Revelation, it mentions the children of Israel. We disconnect with that name. As the brother mentioned earlier in Jeremiah chapter 17, verse 4, we shall discontinue from our heritage. The fulfillment of that scripture, I want y'all to meditate on this right now. What is your last names? And where did you get it from? That's a testament within itself. That we as a people, so-called Black, Hispanics, and Native American Indians, we have disconnected from our heritage. That's why today we adapt to all other type of ethnic groups or philosophies, because we have yet this day to realize who we truly are, the heritage of the children of Israel, all right? So let's go real quick. Do I move this slide? Yes, let's move on now. All right. So as we can see, let's get here. Deuteronomy 28, verse 16. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Read on where you at. Excuse me. Read on where you at. Verse 5? Yes, keep reading. Come on.
Verse 5, Behold, I will send you Elijah the prophet.
So this right here is a prophecy. God will send us Elijah the prophet. Read, come on.
Before the coming of the great and dreadful day of the Lord.
Read.
And he shall turn the hearts of the fathers to the children.
So there is a mystical, spiritual, supernatural event that's going to happen on the planet where God himself would connect the minds of his children of Israel back to the heritage of who we truly are. But that only came with what? A leader. It mentioned right here, Elijah the prophet. Read that part again and we're going to continue. I just want to make that connection. We lost and discontinued from our heritage. How do we get back to it? By the acts of leaders to show us historical and biblical facts. Read, come on.
And he shall turn the hearts of the fathers to the children, and the heart of the children to their fathers.
Right.
Lest I come and smite the earth with a curse.
So before salvation comes, before peace comes on earth, we as a people must know that we indeed are the children of Israel. All right, so let's get into it real quick. How do we know who we are in the last days? Now, after we get done with everything, I want you all to go and look around, as we know already, and see there's a lot of different examples on how we discontinue from our heritage, and these are the connections of who we were in Africa. That's right. I want y'all to do something for me real quick. If you can, real quick, I'm going to beam this back there. Look at this real quick. It's a shape of Africa, all right? But there's one little vital part, a piece of land that's missing from that, which is a piece that we call today Israel. It be somewhere around there, all right? This right here is in fact a cut off part of the rest of Africa, where we come from. We all come from a part what we call Africa. Today it's called Israel. Y'all understand that? All right, so how do we connect who we are today? All right, let's get into this real quick. Deuteronomy 28, verse 15. Let's get it. Come on.
Book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, verse 15. But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God.
So now there will be a future prophecy. It shall come to pass if we did not listen to God's voice, his commandments, his statutes. What are some of God's commandments? Who can name out in the crowd right now? What are some of God's commandments? Thou shalt not kill. What else do we have? Go ahead, brother. Thou shalt not covet. What else do we got? One more. Let me get one more. Commandment. So when we have these various examples of us not listening to God's voice, something would happen unto us as a people. We lose, as I mentioned earlier, our power, our morale, our civilization in Israel. Read it again from the top. Come on.
But it shall come to pass.
This is a black man, an Israelite, as you and I today, writing this to the children of Israel. What is he saying? It shall come to pass. Read.
If thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes which I command thee this day.
So listen up, brothers and sisters. God said out of the mouth of Moses, if we did not listen to his commandments, something would happen. What is that something? Read. Come on.
That all these curses.
What?
That all these curses.
Curses. Generational curses. Death. Plagues will come upon us. Read. Come on.
Shall come upon thee and overtake thee.
The thing that it's speaking of right here is the children of Israel. All right? Not the Egyptians. Not Africans. Not Americans. But this would happen and befall upon the children of Israel. Let's go to the next slide real quick. All right, let's get into it. So what was one of those first curses? Now, if you all can, I want y'all to look at this real quick. Right here in the back, right there, right quick. Look, y'all familiar with this, right? It's the same exact example that we have back there, behind us right there. An example of how we were brought over here in the Americas, sold as slaves. So let's make the connection. Slide up a little bit. What verse we at? Slide up a little bit. Right. Let's get Deuteronomy 28, verse 16.
Book of Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 16.
Right.
Cursed shalt thou be in the city.
The Bible says, cursed shall we be in the city. How many of us in here heard about the Tulsa, Oklahoma bombings by show of hands? Okay. What about the Rosewood that's in Levy County in Florida? Who heard about the Rosewood massacre? All right. What about, has anybody ever heard of what they call, the Red Summer? It happened in the 1900s, all right? 1919 until today, all right? These various examples that I just mentioned are literally the fulfillment of what we're reading right here. Read that again, come on.
Cursed shalt thou be in the city.
We were cursed in the city. We were lynched in the cities. We were murdered on the streets. We were massacred in our cities when we had cities of civilization, when we were rebuilding as a people. And that's a fact. Listen, why in America did we have to rebuild? Why did we need a renaissance? Why do we need to establish our black excellence, so-called, to today? Because we lost our heritage. The Bible says what? Read it again. Curse what?
Cursed shalt thou be in the city.
So we were cursed in the city by the hands of our oppressors. They lynched, robbed, and murdered us. They robbed us of our heritage. So cursed shalt thou be in the city. So scroll up real quick. As we all can see, go to the picture. It says, cursed shall we be in the city, all right? As you can see a father and his wife and his child being sold on the auction block by their oppressor. Their oppressor right here. This is a fact. This is also biblical proof that who this happened to are the Israelites. We are the people of Israel. If we can read this real quick, scroll up. I want to read this whole flyer right here. This was a flyer. This was a flyer. Read that whole flyer real quick.
To be sold.
To be what?
To be sold.
Read.
On the third day of August next.
So listen, as you all see commercial marketing on TVs for you to buy a car or anything like that, back in the 1600s until now, listen, they sold us. This right here was July 24th, 1769. This was not too far away. We're in 2022. All right. It says to be sold. What shall be sold? Read.
A cargo of 94 prime healthy Negroes.
It said this is a cargo of 94 prime healthy Negroes. Read.
Consisting of 39 men, 15 boys, 24 women, and 16 girls.
All right, let's keep on in the slide. We were merchandise. God said, if you break my commandments, you will become merchandise, and you will be cursed in the cities. Let's get some various examples of how we were cursed in the city. Read that for me real quick.
The slave market located where Wall Street reached the East River was established in 1711 as a place where enslaved blacks and Native African Americans could be hired or purchased.
So listen, y'all gotta understand, what we know as the Wall Street market today in New York City, it was originally a slave market. That's right. In New York today, it was a slave market where our ancestors were sold as slaves. The same prophecy that God said to the children of Israel, us, our forefathers, our ancestors. When we came over here on cargo slave ships from the west ports of Africa, we knew that we were the Israelites, and we lost our heritage. We were sold at Wall Street, all right? It says, was established in 1711 as a place where enslaved blacks and Native Americans could be hired or purchased. Let's keep on going, bro. So as you said, hold on real quick, scroll back down. Right here is an example of New York City, New York slave market about I think it says 92. It's real hard to see right there. But in New York, your Wall Street, we were sold as slaves. Come on, keep going real quick. How many other examples were we cursed in the city? It says thousands of blacks, Latinos, Native Americans were held in bondage and sold in the early colonial settlements of New France, New Brunswick, Prince Edward Island, Nova Scotia, and in Upper Canada, Ottawa. So listen, from the whole land of the Americas, North, Central, and South America, we were sold. Look at these pictures right here. Well, we were sold by the hands of our oppressors, the so-called white man. I'm just going to say it plain, as the brother mentioned earlier. The nation of Edom, right? And we were sold. The men were put down on their knees, sold, and enslaved before their families. Keep going down real quick. All right. Many other examples of our mothers, our foremothers and forefathers sold right here. So what are we doing when we bring this up? We are making the signs. Give me Deuteronomy 28 real quick, verse 46. I'm going to be brief. Here we go. What are we doing? We are making the connection that the so-called history that we went through pertaining to slavery was indeed a prophecy that was fulfilled in us. We are the children of Israel. Give me that real quick. Come on.
Book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, verse 46.
Read.
And they shall be upon thee.
The they that is speaking of, ladies and gentlemen, are the curses, the punishments that God put upon the children of Israel. God only knows a certain race of people on the planet. Thus he punished them. Give me that real quick. Oh, what we got? Let me get Amos chapter 3. Let's get verse 3. Amos chapter 3, verse 3. If we broke God's commandments, the Lord would put punishments upon his children, his responsibility, to make them remember the righteousness that we're supposed to show unto him. All right? Read that verse. Come on.
Book of Amos, chapter 3, verse 2.
Read.
You only have I known.
God said what?
You only have I known.
The power, the omnipotent. All right? The creator of all things said, you only, Israel, have I known. Read.
Of all the families of the earth.
Read verse 1. Come on.
Verse 1.
Read.
Hear this word that the Lord hath spoken against you, O children of Israel.
So how shall God say a word against his people, the children of Israel, if we did not listen to his voice? We were enslaved in our communities by the hands of our oppressors, in the sugarcane fields, all right, in the cotton fields, picking tobacco. All right, you only have I known. Read on, come on.
Against the whole family which I brought up from the land of Egypt, saying,
Read.
You only have I known of all the families of the earth.
Of all the people on the earth, I'm going to do something only to you. Read, come on.
Therefore, I will punish you for all your iniquities.
Now, let's see. Let me get this little excerpt real quick, if we can. And Babylon 10:2, I believe. Let's see. Keep reading when you look.
Verse 3. Can two walk together except they be agreed?
Okay, go back to Deuteronomy. I'm sorry.
Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 46. And they shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever.
So these curses, or the punishments that would only befall the children of Israel, will be upon us for generations. For generations. For generations, we would disconnect from our heritage. And our last names will be changed. Our surnames will be changed. A lot of us in here, myself included, my last name used to be Green. Some of us are Brown. Some of us are Jacksons. Some of us are Hernandez, Cortezes. We got these names from our oppressors. But when we came over here on ships, we had the name that we got from the lands of Africa that we came from. Israel that we came from. All right, so keep reading what we have real quick. Keep going. Keep going.
Verse 47.
So when we read these punishments, they are clues to identify we are the children of Israel today. We are the people of God. We are the true Jews. All right? Read, come on.
Because thou servest not the Lord thy God with joyfulness.
Since we don't want to serve God with joyfulness and gladness of heart, read, come on.
And gladness of heart, for the abundance of all things.
Read, because listen, the abundance of all things was rulership, kinghood, having kings and priests. We ruled the planet. How do we disconnect ourselves from ruling the planet and where we are today? What happened? We lost our heritage. And we pick up a heritage that has not been taught to us from our ancestors. The Bible is our heritage. We can get that in Sirach if you can find it. But keep reading where you at.
Therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies.
So if we did not serve God with joyfulness and gladness of heart, we serve our enemies. Read, come on.
Therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies, which the Lord shall send against thee.
Read.
In hunger.
So what we're reading right now is another clue to identify our history to today. When you did not serve the Lord God with joyfulness and gladness, He's going to cause you now to serve your enemies. Read, come on.
And in thirst. And in nakedness.
So you better believe these brothers and sisters, they serve right here on the tobacco field right here. All right? This labor that they put in, they were fed and clothed and sheltered and drunk the water from their oppressors, their enemies. Read, come on.
And in want of all things.
So who did this happen to? The Israelites. Who are we today? We are the Israelite people. For the want of all things. If we need a three-piece suit, if we need a car, a Benz, if we need a house for a loan for a house, if we need these things, we will have to serve our enemies for it. You serve your enemies in these modern-day plantations called what? These jobs that we have. Your Walmarts. All right? All these establishments that we have today. Off of the back and blood of the so-called Native American Indians and blacks of today, we built this land. Who do y'all think built the White House? White men did not build the White House. Black people did. And we did not dwell in it. Let's get that verse real quick if you will. Let's get that. Let's get another example of a curse. We have to know and understand, we got to come out of the lies that we were taught, that we were oppressed under, and realize who we are. We are not African people. We are not Americans. Africa was a man by the name of Leo Civius Africanus who were given that heritage, causing us further to disconnect of who we are. There's no such thing as an African person on this planet. We are the children of Israel.
Book of Jeremiah, chapter 21, and verse 13. Woe unto him that buildeth his house by unrighteousness, and his chambers by wrong, that uses his neighbor's service without wages, and giveth him not for his work. That saith, I will build me a wide house, and large chambers, and cutteth him out windows.
So our oppressor made the slaves, our ancestors, to build a wide house, a big White House. The White House that we have in Washington today. So let's go back to the slide real quick. You got your hand. So what are we doing? We are identifying the evident clues and facts that we are the children of Israel. Plain and simple. These are the facts. Listen, look. This is in the sugarcane fields right here that we got right up here. Look at this, brothers and sisters. Look at this. This is a white man around a bunch of Israelites. All right. Our foremothers and forefathers, right? Making them pick cotton. All right? Scroll on down a little bit so everybody can see this image right here. Look. So after we picked the cotton, we brought in mills to make what after that? They made their clothing for it. All right? Let's go to this real quick. This is a sugarcane field where our fathers was laboring in the islands, all right? In Jamaica. And they were forced to cut down sugarcane. So when the Europeans came over here, the Spaniards came over here, they were looking for resources. But they didn't do the labor themselves. They forced us from Africa to do this. Let's get that real quick in Joel real quick. Joel. Let's get straight to the point. Joel chapter 3 verse 4. Once again, we are showing biblical facts, historical facts, that we are the children of Israel. We are the people of God. All right? That's our heritage. Read.
Chapter 3, verse 4.
Read.
Yea, and what have ye to do with me, O Tyre and Zidon, and all the coast of Palestine? Will ye render me a recompense? And if you recompense me...
So when you go to the west coast of Africa, when you go to northeast Africa, you'll find a land called Israel that's also a part of Africa. Tyre and Zidon are old Canaanite, Hamite nations that sold our ancestors to the white man, the oppressors. That's what happened to us. That's without a shadow of a doubt. All right? You look on the walls, a lot of things that we went through about right over here, as I mentioned before. It's beautiful that we have this example at the back right quick. I want y'all to take a look at that. Because that shows you that the Bronze Kingdom building, they understand and know that we were sold, not by our own only, but also primarily we were sold to the so-called white man, the oppressor. That's what happened. That's a fact. We can't get scared and not be comfortable with facts. That's what happened. We cannot escape that. But why did that happen? Because we broke God's commandments. All right? Keep reading where you at.
Swiftly and speedily will I return your recompense upon your own head.
Read.
Because you have taken my silver and my gold.
So I'm trying to take another look at this back here. What we are talking about, this picture of this statue real quick of Africa. When we were in the lands of Africa, we were sold in the sub-Saharan slave trade and the transatlantic slave trade. All right? We were sold to various places on the planet. That's how we ended up in Spain. That's how we ended up in Europe. That's how we ended up in China. That's how we ended up in India, because of transatlantic slave trade. That's how we ended up primarily in America. The Israelites, our forefathers, were sold as slaves by the hand of the Hamite nations, who we would call the African people today. All right? Keep reading where you at. What happened? Read.
Because ye have taken my silver and my gold.
Come on.
And have carried into your temples my goodly, pleasant things.
Read. Let's get to the point. Come on, read.
The children also of Judah and the children of Jerusalem.
That's our ancestors, our forefathers. The children of Israel, us today, what happened to them?
Have ye sold unto the Grecians?
Have we sold unto the... So this is the connection on how do we get over into the Americas. Why? Because the original Hamite people, who we would call Africans today, they sold us at the hands of what? The Grecians, our oppressor. This is a biblical prophecy that came true. It was fulfilled. Let's go on to the next slide real quick. Let's get back to Deuteronomy 28. Once again, we are showing to you all today that we are indeed the children of Israel. The Bible says this. Read this real quick.
Look at Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 17.
Read.
Cursed shall be thy basket and thy store.
Cursed shall be our businesses. Tulsa, Oklahoma was bombed by our oppressor. The government, he sent out a sanction that our businesses, our baskets would be destroyed. They would be cursed. We would not prosper. So, in the growth or in the process of black renaissance, as we will call it today, it's imperative that us as so-called black people, who we are the children of Israel, come together and help each other out with businesses, all right, to rebuild. When we build together, guess what happened? We prosper. But we'd be cursed if we would not keep God's commandments, and that's what happened to us. Scroll up a little bit to get this example. It says, cursed shall be thy basket and thy store. All right? What else? Let's get it real quick.
Verse 18. Cursed shall be the fruit of thy body,
Read on.
and the fruit of thy land.
Come on.
The increase of thine kind and the flocks of thy sheep.
It says the increase of our foods, our bodies. It says, cursed shall be the fruit of thy body. Your children would be destroyed and murdered. You'll have many different pictures right here that we see where the Spaniards would come in. Look at how they're taking one of our forefathers right here and hanging them upside down. As you can see right now, I don't know if y'all can see this. This is a Spaniard right here holding upside down one of our children, and a dog is eating it right here. The head of our children. That's your babies right now up in here right now. That's what they did to us back then. The Lord said we'd be cursed. The fruit of our body would be cursed. Look how they're taking a child right here, another Spaniard, European if you will, taking a child and bashing them against the wall, hanging our forefathers right here. Why did this happen? Because we broke God's commandments. And we must make that reconnection of what happened to us, the atrocities. All right? Keep going real quick. Let's go. Let's read this real quick.
Cursed shalt thou be when thou comest in, and cursed shalt thou be when thou goest out.
Let's scroll to the picture real quick. The Bible says, cursed shalt thou be when thou comest in, and cursed shalt thou be when thou comest out. Let's get it real quick. Let me get Sirach chapter 41, verse 8 real quick. Sirach 41 verse 8. So the Bible says, when we are born, we will be born into a curse. Because as soon as we come out of the womb, we are a part of modern day society. The last names that we carry were given unto us by who? Our oppressors. Read that verse real quick. So the Bible says in Deuteronomy 28, what is this, verse 19? It says, cursed shalt thou be when thou comest in, and cursed shalt thou be when thou comest out. So let's see what that means. Read that verse. Come on, read.
And if ye be born, ye shall be born to a curse.
When we come into the world, we shall be born into a curse. One of the testaments of that being fulfilled is what? Our last names. Being cursed when we're born. Read on.
And if ye die, a curse shall be your portion.
So we shall be born into slavery, and we shall die in slavery. All right? That's what would happen to us as a people. We'd be born, and we would die in slavery. All right? Give me up Deuteronomy 28 real quick, verse 68. The main scripture real quick, and I'm going to end on this.
Book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, and verse 68. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships.
Read it again from the top.
And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships.
Read it again from the top.
And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships.
How did the so-called black man, woman, and child get over here to the Americas? We got over here on slave cargo ships. We were the merchandise. We were packed up like sardines on slave ships. Look, they have more cargo. They have more cargo room right here on the slave ships for wine and beverages than they had for the slaves. Well, we defecated and died on ourselves. When some of our foremothers, they gave birth one to another right here, packed up like sardines, all right? You got pictures of this all throughout the world where we were brought through atrocious conditions, sold as slaves, all right? Read it again from the top. Let's break this one scripture down real quick. Read it again.
And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships.
So what are we doing? We are showing our people that they are the children of Israel through the words of God, right? What happened to us? This only happened to the children of Israel. It said the Lord shall bring thee into where?
Egypt again.
So let's see what Egypt, what does Egypt mean? Who knows what Egypt is? Where is it? Just yell it out. In Africa, right? Okay, so let's see what the word Egypt means real quick.
Book of Exodus, chapter 20, verse 2. I am the Lord thy God, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt.
Come on.
Out of the house of bondage.
So the word Egypt is synonymous with the house of bondage. What is bondage? Slavery. Go back to that in Deuteronomy 28 one more time.
And the Lord
what does Egypt mean? Come on.
And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt.
God said, if you break the commandments, I'm going to discontinue you from your heritage, and you have to be sold again like you were in Egypt, in bondage, in slavery. Read it again from the top. Come on.
And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships.
God said, I'm going to bring you into slavery again. How?
With ships.
And that's exactly what we see right here. Are there any other pictures on this real quick? Scroll up. Okay, read. Come on.
By the way whereof I spake unto thee.
Exactly how God said it's going to happen, it's going to happen indeed. Because we're reading about it. That's in our history. Read. What's going to happen? When we came over into the Americas, we were sold as slaves. All right? We're going to read about it. Read. Come on.
Thou shalt see it no more again.
We wouldn't see our homeland, Jerusalem again. Read. Come on.
And there.
And in the land where you were sold and brought on the ships, right? What would happen to us?
Ye shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen.
So the Lord said about a Bible prophecy would happen to us. A biblical prophecy would happen to us. When we would disconnect from our heritage and be sold into the land of our oppressors after we got off the ships. All right? We would be sold on auction blocks. All right? Keep reading where you at.
And no man shall buy us.
And no man shall save us, buy us out of that condition. Is that it? Let's keep going real quick. So what we have many examples of how Negroes were sold in the Americas, all right? This is an example right here where it says, no man shall buy you or save you. We have Martin Luther King. We have Malcolm X. We have Stokely Carmichael. We have, Marcus Garvey. Many different examples of men that tried to deliver us out of the conditions that we were in, but they failed. All right, they failed. The only man that can save the children of Israel is Christ, the black Messiah. You understand that? Y'all understand that? Yeah. Okay, all praise. Let's go. Come on, keep going to the slide. All right. Let's see here. All right. That's it on that. Thank you all for the time. I'll praise you.
We used to scream black power while heroin was pushed. But at the end of the day, nothing's in vain. I.U.I.C. has been given a vision. The tents of Judah has risen. Many has attempted the mission. Minor murmuring, omitting, and missing the mark. Just reading that he had the flame of fire in his eyes gave us the spark. We on Paul's mission. We out on the road, purple and gold. From Mexico, Cuba, Haiti, Ghana, Sierra Leone. 144,000 boots banging, concrete crackling. These are our men repented at heart. The scriptures is proof. I.U.I.C, we deliver the truth.